Hello and welcome to Set to Love. I am your host, Eva Payne, and today we have an amazing guest, Jenni Reher. She has been on this show before. She loves talking about finding your purpose, and today we are talking about pinning down your purpose. So stay tuned. Here we go, and happy Monday morning.
My name is Eva Payne. Welcome to The Flow Life, where we define love as live open, value everything. On this podcast, you are dialed in and set to love. Let's go for a ride.
Good morning, Jenni.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Yay, we got the back end stuff figured out here. Sometimes there's a little technical
always
difficulties on
something.
the other side. But you are here. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being back on the show Set to Love today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and to see you again.
Yay. Okay, so for people who don't know you, and I've been taking some notes all around purpose, and I had a friend email in a question. So I'm excited to talk to you about some of this stuff. But first, before we get started, for people who don't know who you are, do you want to just give us the down low on who you are and kind of a little bit about your journey? Because it has evolved since the last time you've been on this show too, which I love that you are, niching down and getting more specific while still being able to help kind of that broader audience if that's what people are looking for. So yay. Jump on in and tell us about yourself, Miss Jenni.
Let's just say I'm just constantly reinventing myself and living my purpose, but having lots of passions. You could say I'm multi-passionate. So my journey started in 2015, and I basically started out with my own donut company. I have a marketing background, but in 2015, I created my own donut company. And I did that for 4 years. I started in my home kitchen, then I moved on to wholesale. And then in 2019, I sold it. And then after that, I was kind of trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. What was I going to do next? What was going to be my next kind of thing? And I decided to become a life purpose coach because I found my purpose, which is to help people. So then I'm like, okay, well, that's normal. Then I'm just going to help people find their purpose. So I became a life purpose coach. And then while I was, doing marketing for my life purpose coach business, I was talking a lot about donuts and a lot about my business. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just start teaching people to do what I did? Why don't I just become a baking business coach? Still kind of have that life purpose coach element. But yeah, so it's kind of evolved a little bit over time. And yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Oh, I love it. I love that, and I think this is so important for people. When we talk about purpose, a lot of times I think people think I'm supposed to do one thing and I got to figure out what that one thing is. And so you're on this mission of always trying to figure out that one thing. And I'm sure maybe you can attest to this or talk about this, but how our purpose or what it is that we do and how we express maybe our purpose, I guess, evolves as we evolve and as we find ways that we can better serve out there in the world.
Yeah, I think that, you can have one purpose. Like for me, it's helping people, but you can have lots of passions that bring that purpose into focus. So my way of helping people is through coaching, but it's also through different kinds of coaching, right? Showing people how to find their purpose, helping people start their baking businesses, and just helping in those ways. I think when you bring in parts of your personality into your purpose, that's when it kind of all comes together. So again, just one purpose that I believe in, and then multi passions that kind of bring that in together.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so here's this question that yesterday after I posted that you were coming on the show, my friend Bill said, question, are our quote unquote purpose and our quote unquote why the same thing? synonymous. Seems like a why can drive purpose, but one never seems far from the other. Thanks. Merry Christmas. So what do you think about that? Are our purpose and our why, are they the same thing? Are they synonymous? Are they different? How do you see that?
Oh gosh, that's a
I
really
know.
good question.
Okay, well, let me tell here. I'll give you what I said back, and then you can tell me what you think. And it's going to be kind of a little scramble because it's text, but it says, I said, to me, purpose can be to serve, to grow, to learn, etc. Purpose can also be, and I was thinking of you, to bake, to run, to share, to build. Our why, well, ultimately, many things drive our purpose. We serve because it feels good or because we feel like we need to be an example. But why do we serve? Why do we serve? Why do we build? Why do we run? Why do we bake? Is a deeper question to me, I suppose. So I was kind of thinking of like purpose, like there's like your purpose is to serve. Mel Robbins, I just heard her talk about, she said that she thinks everyone's purpose is the same. And she said to share your full self, to be fully seen. So she thinks that's kind of everyone's purpose. But a lot of times I think when we think about purpose, we're thinking about like the very tangible thing, like to be a baking business coach. Like that is my purpose, to go out and teach people how to create a baking business. Right. And so then there's that question of the why, like, why do you do it? Why do you serve? Why do you teach people how to have that baking business? So I know there's a lot of things within that, but what's coming up for you as I'm saying all of this?
Well, I like your answer. And I would also add to that, I believe that your purpose is who you are as a person. So you innately have these traits that you can share with other people. So in my case, my purpose is to help people. And that is also part of my personality. And so when you have your why, which is your meaning for or your reason for being, right? And you combine that into your purpose, I kind of think they're the same thing now that I think about it. I
You
think
do
your why
think
and
that
your
they're
purpose are the
synonymous?
same. Yeah,
So like
I
your
think so.
why though, like if I were to say, why do you help people?
Because it's innately part of my personality. I'm an INFP, which is part of the Myers-Briggs, and I've talked about it before, which is 16personalities.com. It's a really great a tool that you can use. There are other ways to find your purpose too, but this one is pretty cut and dry. It'll tell you exactly what your purpose is when you take the free test. And when you take the test, then you'll see that you have different personality traits that fit into one purpose. Like some people, their purpose isn't to help people. It's more to, like, let's say your personality is more geared towards public service, right? Or, maybe one of the occupations that you live your purpose through is being a policeman. So a policeman's very different from, you still help people, but it's more,
Right.
Following the rules, making sure the law is being followed, and those kinds of things.
Well, I think about people who are creatives, while their art might ultimately help people,
Yeah.
Someone feels really connected to their art, their purpose is to create, whether you're an architect or a painter or whatever. If you're creating something that then goes into the world, you're adding beauty to the world, right? That might be another vein of like a different kind of overall arching purpose.
Yeah, for sure. You can live it out in different ways. If, like you said, if you're creative, then you can live it through art, or you can live it through baking, or you can live it through helping people in a more, a tangible way. But yeah, I think it's different for everyone, but it's more geared towards your personality. And another way that I have talked about finding your purpose is to figure out who you wanted to be as a child, because that's usually indicative of who you actually are as a person. So if you say that you wanted to be an artist or you wanted to do paintings when you were a child, then that stuff always ends up coming out at some point or another in your life as you get older.
So what did you want to be as a child? Did you want to be a baker, or were you helping people? Were you in the kitchen a lot? I'm just curious.
The funny thing is, I wanted to be a psychologist,
Yeah.
but like many people, when you tell your parents or your caretakers what you want to be, they usually look at it from more of a practical point of view, or more realistic point of view. So it's like, do you know how much school you're going to have to do? Do you really understand psychology? It's a bunch of quacks. I don't know if that's really what you want to do. And I was discouraged from doing it. So I went a totally different direction. I went into marketing. But at the same time, coaching has always been a part of my life. Like, I saw a career coach when I was in high school. I always listened to coaching podcasts when I was baking. I saw a burnout coach when I was in my business. And so it's always been there. But then I think about baking too. And it's so funny because my mom didn't really let me bake with her. But I remember sitting on the floor in the kitchen looking through cookbooks. And
Mhm.
like, that's what I did in my free time. I would just like sit on the floor and look at these cookbooks and imagine, making these recipes, which is so bizarre. So yeah, it kind of manifested itself in two kind of different ways.
Isn't that interesting? I always tell people that nothing's ever wasted. And so
Yeah,
those things that you have, that you were attracted to when you were younger, or even the things that you invested time into when you were younger, whether that younger for you was at this point, junior high, high school, or if younger for you was in your 20s, whatever job or focus or career or thing that you've done in your past, they somehow seem to come back around, especially if they're really rooted into how you can show up into this world today. Like, for example, this podcast. I was a broadcasting major in college, and then went to theater, and then went to starting a nonprofit and doing nothing with either of those things. And then here I am, however many years later, 20 years later, doing this. And it
yeah,
kind of is full circle, because it does pick up so many of the things that I've done along the way. And so I think it's almost like our lives are these puzzle pieces. And when we can be objective about it and step back and look at all the different pieces of the things that have interested us over the years, or the things we've just spent time doing, or the things we've nurtured and cultivated in our lives, and we put it all together, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Like, for you being a coach and helping people specifically around starting some kind of baking business, I mean, it makes perfect sense, because you've done it and you were good at it. You became really successful at it. You were able to sell it. And now you can teach people how to do that without falling into the same maybe pit holes and traps that you fell into.
totally. And I think, to your point too, that throughout your life, you'll start seeing signs when you're still kind of looking for your purpose and you don't really know. Those signs have always been there pointing you in that direction. Like you said early on, you started out in broadcasting,
Mhm.
and now look at you. You're doing it again in kind of a different format, right? You're doing podcasting.
Yeah.
Um, and for, just if you just look at those signs and see that they're pointing you in one way or another, you can always look back and go, oh, yeah, that's why I was interested in that. And that's why I still want to do that. And I think to honor that is um, what is the most difficult thing, because I think people are like, but I went to school for this
Mhm.
and I spent all my time doing that. And now I'm just going to start something new just because I like it. Yes. Yes, you are. Because it's who you are as a person. It's your personality. It's coming out, and it's the universe or whatever you believe in telling you that you need to follow this path because it's true to who you are. I really
Oh,
believe that.
I believe it too. So what do you
Yeah.
say to someone who, we're coming to the end of this year, and inevitably when we step into a new year, people take a moment, if not a long moment, a hard pause, and
Mhm.
really reevaluate their lives. I mean, if you think about this great resignation that's going on with all these people going, heck no, I am not going to go to that 9 to 5 and work at that company anymore. I know I need to do something different. I just don't know what it is, or they do know what it is, but they're just afraid to kind of start laying bricks to go in that direction? What advice would you have for someone? Here we are at the end of this year, going into next year, and if they're in that place, what would you say to that person?
Oh boy. You know, I mean, obviously you need to make a living in some way, but you can do it on the side, right? I mean, if you're just like, I'm going to resign and I'm going to start over and I'm doing it all, then follow who you are as a person. Like I said, try 16personalities.com. Look at who you wanted to be as a child. Look at the signs throughout your life and start following those nuggets of information. And I'm not going to guarantee it, but I'm going to say that you will be successful just because it's going to come naturally to you, whatever you decide that you're going to do. But if you still need to make a living, then just try it as like a hobby or try it as a side hustle. I hate that word, but try it, on the side of what you're doing, and see if you can eventually go full time with that. Whatever it is, if it's writing or if it's dancing or if it's baking or if it's podcasting, whatever. I think it's important, like you say, Eva, it's really important to follow your flow. It's important to follow your bliss.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I really do believe that when you step in and towards the thing that you love the most,
Yeah,
that you deeply desire the most, you will be successful. And even if that success comes in the form of failure after failure, because you learn so much in trying to pursue something and then having it not happen the way that you think and sitting there with it and being strategic, going, okay, so I know I'm still supposed to be in, let's just say, the coaching world. Like, let's, use you as an example, but like, how can I refine this a little bit? What can I add to it? What can I take out? And you've refined it down to really a really specific niche and really helping men and women who want to start and launch these baking businesses. But that's true for any of us, right? Like being able to refine what it is that we're working on. That's not just the first thing you think of out of the gate going, oh, that's it. That's my purpose. And then full steam ahead. And if it doesn't work out, then you feel like a failure and like there's no hope.
that's so true. I think part of success is failure, but it's funny because when you find something that you're passionate about and that's also your purpose, it, like I said, it comes naturally to you. So you also are super excited about it and you feel it in your bones. This is it. You're going to do this no matter what. This is your calling, your purpose, whatever you want to call it. And you can definitely follow that and feel confident in that.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know what? I think about whether it was starting the nonprofit 20 something years ago or these retreats that I'm starting to put on now, when I feel really drawn towards something, no matter what the obstacle is that comes up in the way, whatever the quote unquote failure is, I'm just like, oh, you're just a little rock, you're a little pebble in my stream. Let me just go around you. I move like water to try to get around the obstacles that are in your way. Like if that one thing doesn't work out, I go, okay, well, that didn't work out. So, well, what might work out? So it's just about, you don't even give up. It's not about, it's so tied to who you are that you are going to find a way and you're going to be pliable to be able to figure out how that is and move like water, adjust as needed.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was not successful when I was baking. I mean, I took the long route. I had no help whatsoever. And I made a ton of mistakes and I could have leapfrogged all of that. But I was willing, I guess, leapfrogged it, meaning had I had a baking background, a professional baking background for that matter, it would have been so much easier. But I was starting from a marketing background. I started from nothing. And I was willing, because I felt it in my bones, that this was what I was supposed to do. I felt it. And even though I was failing, I was willing to work through all of those quote unquote failures. And they ended up teaching me something, right? And you always learn from your failures and you don't make those mistakes the next time. But it's when you know that this is what you want to do, you're willing to make those mistakes, no matter what. You're just willing to just go through those and do what you can to get to that end result. It may take you longer, But at the end, it's actually who you are. And so it comes, those barriers are easier to get over than if it wasn't something that you were supposed to do. Like if you look at a job and you're totally miserable and you hate it, that's not your purpose. That's not what you're supposed to be doing, right? It's against every part of your own being.
I totally agree. All right, last point I want to talk about then. So for you, and I'm sure this happens to a lot of people, so you have this purpose, you have this baking business, you've launched it, you've got they were vegan donuts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Such a cool niche. So then you're then you start to feel however you feel about it, whether it's you've done it for 20 years or whether it's just you've put so much of yourself into it for 5 years that you feel that burnout. What do you say to someone about adjusting your purpose, about saying, okay, I've done this one thing. And I don't mean the purpose like the overall arching purpose, like your service or to create or whatever, but the actual doing, the actual execution of your purpose. What would you say to someone who's sort of at that point to where it's time to redefine, reinvent?
That's a really good question. I would say, okay, first of all, I would say it's never too late. You can always reinvent yourself. I constantly do it. And I think people are like, what? But I just do. And I think you have to honor that. If that is part of who you are and you're willing to try new things, then just do it. Again, if you stay within your purpose, it's going to be a lot more tied to who you are as a person, and it'll be easier for you to pivot. But I definitely think you should honor that. If you're like, I was burned out in baking, and so I'm like, okay, what's next? And I, found my purpose. I decided I wanted to go into coaching. I mean, you can kind of make it fit so that it makes sense, but it may not make sense. It may not. And that's okay. It's good to just be open to trying new things. And especially, if you're burned out, you need to give yourself a break. But, try something new and see if it works and see if it's something that you're passionate about, and then go for it. And then go for the next thing. I mean, always try different things and be true to yourself. I really think that is the key to being happy in your life.
I love that. Yep. Like Mel said, share your full self, right? Constantly sharing yourself with others, being fully expressed. What does that look like today? And what that looks like today might be totally different than what it looks like tomorrow or in a year or 5 years, so allowing yourself to be that chameleon of your life and adjusting as different circumstances and different things come up and your interests evolve. I think the knowledge that we gain through life and just the experiences that we have, new things that we didn't even know would fascinate us might come about. And then we can step into that space and learn something new there, try something new. I mean, that's what I love about being human, is that we just have so many possibilities of how we can express ourselves in the world. And I think we should take advantage of that while we have the time to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so important to not feel guilty for not wanting to stick with one thing. Just don't feel bad about it. Feel like this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to try a whole bunch of different things and share them with the world.
I love it. Thank you, Jenni, so much for coming back on the show today. It is a pleasure knowing you and having you in this little community of Set to Love, people that we have had on. I love what you are doing in the world. Thank you so much for stepping into your purpose and for helping people to find theirs. And if there's anyone out there who wants to take a business from staring at cookbooks and just being inspired by, I'd like to make that, into creating your own business, Jenni would be an amazing coach for you. Jenni, how can people find you if they're interested in connecting with you or following you online?
You can find me on Instagram at Find Your Purpose Project.
Perfect. Nice and simple.
Yep. Easy breezy.
Easy breezy. I love you. Thank you so much, friend, for being here. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you and happy holidays.
You too. Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. Okay, hang on. I want to say bye to you offline. Let me say bye to everyone else. Thank you so much for being here on Set to Love today. Tune in next Monday for an amazing guest, another one just like my friend Jenni here. And I can't wait to see you. And please share this with anyone that you think might benefit from this episode. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate this week and this month. And I'll see you guys next Monday. Bye. Bye.